December 26th, 1964, Boxing Day. A young man named David Smith walks into a police station in Hyde, Greater Manchester, his hands trembling, his face the color of ash. He tells the officer on duty that he witnessed a murder the night before. An axe to the head, 14 blows. He watched his brother-in-law kill a 17-year-old boy in the living room while his sister stood by, doing nothing. The officer stares at him, thinks maybe this kid's on drugs, making it up. But Smith keeps talking. He gives an address, Wardlebrook Avenue, number 16. He describes the body wrapped in plastic sheeting, and he says something that makes the officer's blood freeze. There are others. On the moors, they've been doing this for years. Within hours, police knock on the door of a modest council house. They find exactly what Smith described. A body, a teenage boy named Edward Evans, brutalized beyond recognition, and standing in the doorway, calm as Sunday morning, is a 23-year-old woman with bleached blonde hair and cold blue eyes. Her name is Myra Hindley. Beside her, smirking, is her boyfriend, Ian Brady, 27 years old, thin, dark, arrogant. And in that moment, the door opens on one of the most depraved and horrifying cases in British criminal history. The Moors murders, 5 children tortured and killed, some of their bodies buried on Saddleworth Moor, lost for decades, and at the center of it all, a couple, a partnership in evil, 2 people who didn't just kill together, they fed off each other, escalated each other, became something worse than either could have been alone. Today, we're going deep into the minds of the killers, the lives of the victims, the investigation that almost didn't happen, and the question that still haunts Britain 60 years later. How could she? How could Myra Hindley, a young woman, someone's daughter, someone's sister, help murder children? Stick with me, because this isn't just a story about monsters. It's about how monsters are made and how close they can get before anyone notices. Let's rewind to the late 1950s. Manchester, industrial, working class, streets of terraced houses where everyone knows everyone. Kids play in the alleys, doors stay unlocked. It's a world of tight-knit communities and post-war optimism, the kind of place where you trust your neighbors, where children walk to school alone and parents don't think twice. Into this world comes Myra Hindley, born 1942 in Gorton, Manchester, raised by her grandmother after her parents struggled to cope. By all accounts, she's a normal girl, pretty, a bit vain, maybe, loves animals, works as a typist, goes to church. Nothing about her screams danger. But here's the thing about Myra. She's searching for identity, for purpose, for someone to tell her who to be. And in 1961, she finds him, Ian Brady. He's a stock clerk at the same chemical company where she works. Myra notices him immediately. Dark, brooding, reading books in German, listening to records about Nazi atrocities. To most people, he's a weirdo. To Myra, he's fascinating, dangerous, different. She writes in her diary. Yes, she keeps a diary, and it'll come back to haunt her, about how obsessed she is, how she'd do anything to get his attention. For a year, Brady ignores her. Then, in December 1961, he asks her out, and everything changes. Think about that. A young woman, impressionable, desperate for meaning, meets a man who has very clear ideas about the world, about power, about morality, or the lack of it. Brady is obsessed with the Marquis de Sade, with Nietzsche, though he misunderstands him completely. He believes in a philosophy of might makes right, that some people are above morality, that the weak exist to be exploited. And Myra? She drinks it in. She transforms, stops going to church, dyes her hair blonde, starts dressing to match Brady's tastes. She learns to shoot, gets a license, buys a car, a van, actually, which will become crucial. She becomes his accomplice in petty crimes first, stealing, scamming, and then, in July 1963, they take the next step. They kill a child. Pauline Reed, 16 years old. It's July 12th, 1963, a warm summer evening in Gorton. Pauline is on her way to a dance. She's wearing a pink dress, excited. She's got her whole life ahead of her. She knows Myra Hindley. Myra is a neighbor, a familiar face. So, when Myra pulls up in her van and asks Pauline for help finding a lost glove on Saddleworth Moor, Pauline doesn't hesitate. She trusts her. They drive up to the moor. Desolate, beautiful in a bleak way. Miles of peat and heather. Pauline walks with Myra, searching for a glove that doesn't exist, and Ian Brady is waiting. He attacks her, slashes her throat, sexually assaults her. Myra watches, maybe participates. The details are murky because Brady and Hindley will spend decades lying, shifting blame, protecting their own narratives. But what's certain is this: Pauline Reed is buried in a shallow grave on the moor, and no one knows. Her family reports her missing. Police search, but Pauline has vanished, and Myra and Ian go home, clean up, and carry on like nothing happened. How do you process that? How does someone help murder a child, a neighbor, and then just live normally? Go to work, smile at people, pet the dog. This is the mystery at the heart of Myra Hindley. Is she a victim of Brady's manipulation, or is she a willing, eager participant? We'll come back to that because 4 months later, they do it again. November the 23rd, 1963. John Kilbride, 12 years old. It's a Saturday. John goes to the cinema in Ashton-under-Lyne with a friend. After the movie, they split up. John starts walking home. He never arrives. Myra and Ian have refined their method. The lure, the trust. Myra's the bait. A woman is non-threatening, especially to children. She asks John if he'll help her load some boxes, or maybe offers him a ride. The exact words are lost. But John gets in the van. They drive to the moor. Brady takes John out of the van. Myra waits. Later, Brady will claim he strangled John, sexually assaulted him first, buried him in a grave they dug in advance. John Kilbride's mother, Sheila, will spend decades searching, putting up posters, refusing to believe he's gone. But John is gone. Another child in the cold earth of Saddleworth Moor. And Brady and Hindley are just getting started. 6 months later, June 1964. Keith Bennett, 12 years old, vanishes on his way to his grandmother's house. Same pattern, same moor. Keith's body has never been found. Even now, his mother, Winnie Johnson, spent her entire life begging Hindley and Brady to tell her where her son was buried. She died in 2012 without ever knowing. Brady refused to say, took the location to his grave. Hindley claimed she couldn't remember. Can you imagine that? A mother, dying, begging for the simple mercy of knowing where to mourn her child. And the killers say nothing. That's the cruelty we're dealing with. This isn't just about murder. It's about power, control, the ultimate domination, erasing a child from the world and keeping the secret forever. December 26, 1964. Leslie Ann Downey, 10 years old. This is the one that will break your heart and make you understand the depths of their depravity. It's a few days after Christmas. Leslie goes to a fair in Ancoats with friends. Myra approaches her. Again, the lure. Myra's friendly, offers to walk Leslie home. Maybe there's a puppy involved. Sources differ, but animals are part of the ruse sometimes. Leslie goes with her. They take her to Hindley's grandmother's house. The house is empty. Brady's waiting, and this time, they don't just kill her. They torture her. They photograph her, naked, terrified, pleading. 16 photographs in total. And they record her. Audio tape. 9 minutes of Leslie Ann Downey begging for her life, crying for her mother, asking what they're going to do to her. Hindley's voice is on the tape, cold, commanding, telling Leslie to stop crying, to put something in her mouth, to pose. Brady's voice directing. And then, at the end, Christmas music playing in the background. The little drummer boy. Leslie is strangled, sexually assaulted, buried on the moor. The photographs and tape are kept. Souvenirs. When police eventually find them, hardened detectives will leave the room in tears. The tape is played in court. Jurors weep. Myra Hindley will claim for the rest of her life that she was forced to participate, that she was terrified of Brady. But her voice on that tape, it's not terrified, it's in control. That's the evidence that will make Myra Hindley the most hated woman in Britain, and maybe the most hated woman in British history. But let's pause. Let's talk about Ian Brady, because Myra doesn't exist in this story without him. Who is he? Born Ian Duncan Stewart in Glasgow, 1938, illegitimate, raised by foster parents, troubled childhood, petty crime, juvenile detention. He's intelligent, high IQ, but deeply disturbed, fascinated by Nazism, by sadism, by the idea of transcending morality through violence. He reads de Sade's works, Justine, 120 Days of Sodom, books that describe torture, rape, murder as philosophical acts, and Brady buys in. He believes he's superior, that rules don't apply to him, that inflicting pain is a form of power, even enlightenment. He's also a narcissist, needs admiration, needs control, and when Myra falls for him, obsessed and willing, he sees an opportunity. He can mold her, make her complicit, and complicity is a powerful chain. Once she's helped him kill, she can't leave. She can't report him without implicating herself. It's the ultimate trap. But here's the question. Does that excuse her? Brady is clearly the instigator, the dominant force. But Myra is not passive. She drives the van. She lures the children. She participates. She lies to families. She helps bury bodies. And that tape, her voice, removes any doubt that she's a victim of coercion in those moments. So what is she? A willing partner? A brainwashed disciple? Or something in between? The courts will decide. But the question haunts us still. October 6th, 1965. Edward Evans, 17 years old. This is the murder that finally breaks the case open. Brady and Hindley have been killing for over 2 years. They've gotten away with it because the victims are buried. The families have no leads, and Brady is meticulous. But now, Brady makes a mistake. He wants to expand, to recruit. He's been grooming Myra's brother-in-law, David Smith. Smith is 19, married to Myra's younger sister, Maureen. He's a petty criminal, easily influenced. Brady talks to him about crime, about philosophy, about killing. He lends him books, plants ideas, and on the night of October 6th, Brady invites Smith over to Wardlebrook Avenue, tells him to come late, says there's something he wants to show him. Smith arrives around midnight. He's sitting in the kitchen with Myra when they hear a scream from the living room. Myra tells Smith to wait. She goes into the living room. Smith hears thuds, shouting. Then Myra calls him in, and what he sees will scar him forever. Edward Evans is on the floor, convulsing, blood everywhere. Brady is standing over him with an axe. He's hit Evans more than a dozen times. The boy is dying. Brady strangles him with electrical cord to finish it. Then he turns to Smith and says something like, "That's it. It's done. Normally it takes longer." Smith is frozen, terrified. He helps Brady clean up. Later, he'll say it's because he feared for his own life, that he thought if he refused, he'd be next. They wrap Evan's body in plastic. Brady jokes, makes tea, acts like he's just fixed a leaky tap. Smith leaves at dawn, walking home in shock, and when he gets there, he vomits, tells Maureen everything. They're terrified. Brady knows where they live, but Smith decides he has to go to the police, because if he doesn't, he's next, or more kids are. The police don't fully believe Smith at first, but they go to Wardlebrook Avenue. It's morning. Brady answers the door. Calm, polite. They ask to look around. He says sure. And in the back bedroom, locked, they find Edward Evans' body, exactly where Smith said it would be. Brady and Hindley are arrested. The initial charge is the murder of Edward Evans, open and shut. But then, police start digging. Literally. They search the house, find photographs, the suitcases in a left luggage locker at Manchester Central Station, checked under a false name. Inside, the photographs of Leslie Ann Downey, the tape, pornography, notebooks with plans, names, locations, and a prayer book with the names John Kilbride written inside. Police realize they're dealing with something much bigger. They start searching Saddleworth more. It's brutal work, miles of desolate land. But on October 16th, 1965, 10 days after the arrest, they find a child's shoe, then a shallow grave, Leslie Ann Downey. 5 days later, they find John Kilbride. The country is horrified. The Moores murders become a media sensation. The trial starts in April 1966. It lasts 14 days. The evidence is overwhelming. The photographs, the tape, played in court, devastating everyone who hears it. Witness testimony, the bodies. Brady shows no remorse. He's defiant, smug, thinks he's smarter than everyone. Hindley cries, plays the victim, says she was scared of Brady, that she only helped because he threatened her. But the prosecution dismantles that. They show her active participation, her voice on the tape, her driving, her luring, her lies. The jury deliberates for 2 hours. Guilty, both of them. 3 counts of murder. Edward Evans, Leslie Ann Downey, John Kilbride. They're sentenced to life in prison. In 1966, Britain has abolished the death penalty just months earlier. If the timing had been different, they'd have been hanged. Some people wish they had been. Brady and Hindley are taken to separate prisons, and that's where the story should end. But it doesn't, because for decades, they play games. Hindley launches appeal after appeal. She claims she's reformed, found God again, says she was under Brady's control, a victim herself. She gives interviews, writes letters, becomes a cause for some misguided reformers who believe she deserves release. The families of the victims are re-traumatized every time, every parole hearing, every news story. In 1987, 20 years after their conviction, Brady and Hindley finally confessed to 2 more murders. Pauline Reed and Keith Bennett. They'd never been charged because the bodies hadn't been found. But now, with nothing to lose, they admit it. They take police back to the moor. Hindley helps them find Pauline Reed's grave. After 24 years, Pauline's family can finally bury her. But Keith Bennett? Hindley says she can't remember where he is. Brady refuses to say. They blame each other. The search continues for years. Keith is never found. Winnie Johnson, his mother, dies in 2012, still begging for answers. Brady dies in 2017 in a high-security hospital. never showed remorse, never revealed Keith's location. Some think he kept it as his final act of control, his last way to inflict pain. Hindley died in prison in 2002. She was 60. She'd spent 36 years behind bars, longer than any other woman in British history at that time. She never stopped claiming she deserved freedom. The public never forgave her. So let's talk about the why. Why did they do it? Brady's psychology is almost textbook. He's a sadist, a narcissist. He sexualizes violence. He believes he's above morality. Killing gives him power, control, a god complex. He's also possibly a psychopath. Lack of empathy, shallow emotions, manipulation. He sees people as objects, children as the ultimate victims. Because they're vulnerable, he can dominate them completely. But Myra, that's the harder question. Some psychologists say she has dependent personality disorder, that she latched onto Brady, lost her identity, became an extension of him, that he groomed her, manipulated her, turned her into his instrument. Others say that's too easy, that Myra had agency, that she made choices, that her voice on the Leslie Ann Downey tape shows enjoyment, power, control, that she wasn't a passive victim. She was an active participant. Some say she's a hybristophiliac, someone sexually attracted to criminals, to danger, that Brady's darkness turned her on, that together they created a folie à deux, a shared psychosis where their delusions and depravity fed off each other and escalated. The truth is probably layered. Myra was likely vulnerable, searching, malleable. Brady exploited that. But once she crossed the line, once she helped kill Pauline Reed, she was in. And maybe she discovered something in herself, a capacity for cruelty she didn't know existed. Or maybe she was always capable, and Brady just gave her permission. We'll never fully know, but here's what we do know. She had opportunities to stop, to leave, to confess, and she didn't. For years, she lied, protected Brady, kept the secrets. That's not just coercion, that's choice. The Moors murders changed Britain. Before Brady and Hindley, the idea of a woman as a serial killer, especially of children, was almost unthinkable. Women were nurturers, mothers, protectors. Myra Hindley shattered that. She became the face of female evil. Her mugshot, bleached blonde hair, cold stare, became iconic, a symbol. The tabloids called her the most evil woman in Britain. Even in prison, she received death threats. Other inmates attacked her. She had to be kept in isolation for her own safety. The case also changed how we think about child safety. Before the Moors murders, kids roamed free. Parents didn't worry. After, that innocence was gone. Stranger danger became a thing. Parents held their children closer. The world felt less safe, and the investigation changed policing. The search of Saddleworth Moor was one of the largest in British history. It pioneered techniques in forensic archaeology. The use of photographs and audio recordings as evidence was groundbreaking. The case showed how media could be both a tool, keeping the story alive, generating tips, and a curse, sensationalizing, traumatizing families. It's a legacy that's still felt. Every time a child goes missing, the Moors murders are referenced. Every time a woman is accused of violence, Myra Hindley's name comes up. She's the benchmark, the ultimate cautionary tale. And the victims, Pauline, John, Keith, Leslie Ann, Edward, they're remembered too, not just as victims, but as children, with families, with lives cut short. Their names are etched in British consciousness, especially Keith Bennett, still out there on the moor, still unfound, a wound that won't heal. Here's the thing that haunts me about this case. It's not just the brutality, it's the partnership. The fact that two people found each other and made each other worse. Alone, would Brady have killed? Maybe. He was disturbed enough. But would Myra? We'll never know. Together, they were unstoppable. For over 2 years, they tortured and murdered children, and no one suspected. Because Myra was the perfect cover. A woman, a typist, someone's sister. She made Brady seem safe. She lured the victims. She disarmed suspicion. And that's the lesson. If there is one, evil doesn't always look like a monster. Sometimes it looks like your neighbor, your coworker, the woman offering to help you find a lost glove. And once you're in the van, once you're on the moor, it's too late. The other thing that haunts me is the recording. That 9-minute tape of Leslie Ann Downey. It exists. It's in evidence, locked away, but it exists, and everyone who's heard it says the same thing. It changes you. You can't unhear it. The fear in that little girl's voice, the cruelty in Myra's. It's a document of pure evil, and it proves beyond any doubt that Myra Hindley was not just a victim. She was a perpetrator. That tape is her legacy, and it's why, no matter how many times she claimed reform, no matter how many letters she wrote, the public never forgave her because we heard her. We heard what she was capable of, and we couldn't forget. So where does this leave us? 60 years later, Brady and Hindley are dead. 4 of the 5 victims have been found and buried. Keith Bennett is still out there, somewhere on Saddleworth Moor. His family still searches. Volunteers still search using new technology, ground-penetrating radar, drones. But the moor is vast, and the decades have changed the landscape. Peat shifts, erosion happens. Keith may never be found, and that's the final cruelty of the Moor's murders. The not knowing, the unfinished grief, the way Brady and Hindley kept inflicting pain even from prison, even after death, by withholding the truth. This case asks us uncomfortable questions about evil, about complicity, about gender. We want to believe women can't do this, that they're inherently less violent, less cruel. Myra Hindley forces us to confront the fact that that's not true. Women can be monsters too. Not often, but they can. And when they are, we struggle to process it. We search for explanations, abuse, coercion, mental illness. And sometimes those things are factors. But sometimes the explanation is simpler and more terrifying. Sometimes people just choose evil. They like the power, the control, the thrill. And once they start, they don't want to stop. Brady and Hindley are proof of that. They killed 5 children. They tortured them, recorded them, buried them, and they felt no remorse. Brady died unrepentant. Hindley claimed remorse. But her actions, her refusal to reveal Keith's location, her manipulation of the media, her endless appeals, suggest otherwise. They were, in the end, exactly what they appeared to be. Monsters. If this story has left you shaken, you're not alone. The Moore's murders are designed to haunt. They're a reminder that the worst evil often hides in plain sight, that trust can be weaponized, that some questions, why, how could they, don't have satisfying answers. But we keep asking because the victims deserve it. Pauline Reed, John Kilbride, Keith Bennett, Leslie Ann Downey, Edward Evans. Say their names. Remember them, not just as victims, but as children who deserved to grow up, who deserved life. If you want more deep dives into cases like this, cases that challenge everything we think we know about human nature, hit that subscribe button. Next up, we're diving into the case of Fred and Rose West, another British couple, another house of horrors, and another question. How do two people find each other and create hell on earth. Ring that bell so you don't miss it. Drop a comment. What's your take on Myra Hindley? Victim or monster? Both? And if this video gave you something to think about, hit like. It helps us keep digging into the darkness. Keep telling the stories that need to be told. Thanks for watching. And remember, the Moors are still keeping secrets, but will never stop searching for the truth.